The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was so large that small ships looked like insects flying around it. This was the Corvin Interstellar Academy, the most famous school in the entire galaxy. For 300 years, the best students from 100 different worlds came here to learn. The station had everything a student could need. There were libraries filled with knowledge from ancient civilizations. There were laboratories where students could study the secrets of the universe. There were gardens that grew plants from dozens of planets. And there were classrooms where the greatest teachers in the galaxy shared their wisdom. Instructor Velos walked through the main corridor of the academy. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with silver scales that covered his entire body. He had 6 arms, and he used all of them when he talked. His species, the Corvani, were known for being patient and wise. Velos had taught at the academy for 40 years. He had seen thousands of students come and go. He had watched young minds grow into great leaders, scientists, and thinkers. Today was the first day of a new semester. Velos was excited, but also a little tired. He had taught the same class so many times. He knew exactly what would happen. The new students would be nervous. They would try to impress him. Some would succeed. Most would fail at first but improve over time. It was always the same, but this semester was different. This semester, humans were coming to the academy for the first time. Velos remembered when Earth had been discovered. It was only 15 years ago. A Corvani exploration ship had found the small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. The humans living there had just invented faster than light travel. They were like babies taking their first steps. The galaxy had watched Earth with curiosity. Humans were strange creatures. They had only 2 arms and no scales or fur. They could not see in the dark like the Ilari. They could not feel emotions from far away like the Serani. They could not do complex math in their heads like the Mortith. By galactic standards, humans were ordinary. Perhaps even below ordinary. But humans had one quality that surprised everyone. They were stubborn. They refused to give up. In just 15 years, they had learned enough to join the Galactic Compact. And now, 5 of them were coming to the academy. Velos entered the lecture hall where he would teach his advanced problem-solving seminar. The room was shaped like a bowl, with seats rising up from a central platform. There were already students inside. He saw 2 Ilari in the back row, their long sensory tendrils waving gently. A group of Mortith sat near the front, their crystalline bodies catching the light. A single Serani female sat alone, her skin glowing softly with bioluminescence. 12 different species were represented in the class. They were the best of the best, chosen from millions of applicants. They had passed impossible tests. They had proven themselves worthy. The door opened, and the 5 humans walked in. Velos studied them carefully. They looked so fragile compared to the other students. Their skin was soft and easily damaged. Their bodies were small and weak. But there was something in their eyes. A spark, a hunger. Velos had seen that look before in his best students. One human caught his attention. A young male with messy black hair and tired eyes. He carried an old leather bag over his shoulder and held a metal container in his hand. Steam rose from a small hole in the top. The human's name, according to the class list, was Teho. Teho looked around the room with mild curiosity. He did not seem nervous or excited. He seemed comfortable, as if he belonged here, even though his species had only known about the galaxy for 15 years. The other students watched the humans with poorly hidden judgment. Velos could hear them whispering. "They are so small," a Mortith said to his friend. "How did they even pass the entrance exam?" "Probably a political decision," an Ilari replied. "The Compact wants to make Earth feel included. They do not actually expect the humans to succeed." Velos cleared his throat, and the room went silent. All 6 of his arms spread wide in a gesture of welcome. "Good morning," he said. His voice was deep and rough, but his translator device made his words clear in every language. "I am Instructor Velos. For the next semester, I will teach you how to think. Not what to think. How to think?" He walked to the center platform where a small pedestal stood. On top of the pedestal was a box. It was about the size of 2 fists put together, made of dark metal that seemed to shift and change as light touched it. Strange symbols covered every surface. "This is the Keth puzzle box," Velos said. It was made by a species called the Keth, who died out 8,000 years ago. The Keth were the greatest puzzle makers in galactic history. Their designs still protect our most important secrets. The students leaned forward with interest. Even the humans looked curious. "This box has been solved before," Velos continued, "but only by the Keth themselves, using knowledge passed down through generations. No other species has ever solved it through pure thinking. The fastest time was 3 weeks, and that student spent every waking moment studying it." He touched the box gently, and the symbols on its surface began to glow and move. "This will be your main project for the semester. You may work alone or in groups. There is no wrong answer, only degrees of understanding. The box will teach you about yourselves as much as you teach yourselves about the box." Velos looked at the students, his silver eyes moving from face to face. "You may begin whenever you are ready." The students started to rise from their seats, eager to examine the puzzle. Taiho, the human with the messy hair, was still walking toward the back of the room, looking for an empty seat. He had not even sat down yet, and that was when everything changed. Taiho stopped walking. His foot hung in the air for a moment, like he had forgotten how to move. His eyes were fixed on the puzzle box at the front of the room. The metal container in his hand let out a small cloud of steam, but he did not seem to notice. The other students were already moving toward the pedestal. The 2 Ilari extended their sensory tendrils, trying to feel the energy coming from the box. The Mortis student pulled out a small device and began scanning the symbols. The Sarani closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, searching for any emotional trace left by the ancient creators. But Taiho just stood there, watching, his head tilted slightly to one side. Like a dog hearing a strange sound, one of the other human students, a woman named Ji Yong, noticed him standing frozen. She had known Taiho for 3 months, ever since they started training together for the academy. She had never seen him look like this before. "Taiho?" she said quietly. "Are you okay?" He did not answer. Instead, he started walking, not toward his seat, toward the puzzle box. The other students moved aside as he approached. They did not know why they moved. There was just something about the way he walked. Something certain. Something inevitable. Instructor Velos watched with all 6 of his eyes. His silver scales shifted color slightly, a sign of confusion among his species. "Young human," he said, "you should observe first. The box can be dangerous if you do not understand what you are." Taiho picked up the box. The room went silent. Even the soft hum of the station's engines seemed to fade away. Every eye, every sensory tendril, every crystal face turned toward the small human holding the ancient puzzle. Taiho turned the box over in his hands. His fingers moved across the surface, touching symbols, pressing plates. His movements were not fast, but they were smooth, natural, like he had done this 1,000 times before. The symbols on the box began to change color. Blue to green, green to gold, gold to white. A Mortis student gasped. The symbols were not supposed to change that fast. In his 3 weeks of study, the famous Morith mathematician had only managed to change 4 symbols. Taiho had changed 12 in 10 seconds. Velos stepped forward, his 6 arms reaching out. "Stop," he said. "You do not know what you are doing." The box could, but Taiho was not listening. His eyes were distant, unfocused, like he was seeing something that no one else could see. His fingers kept moving. Press, turn, slide. Press, turn, slide. The plates of the box shifted and clicked like a living thing. 30 seconds passed. The box had changed shape. It was no longer a cube. It was something more complex, with angles that hurt to look at. The symbols were racing across its surface now, forming patterns that made the Alari students cry out in pain. Their sensory tendrils were overwhelmed by the information. 60 seconds. The box unfolded again. And again. Layers within layers, like a flower with infinite petals. The light inside the room grew brighter as the box revealed secrets it had hidden for 8,000 years, 90 seconds. The box opened. A sphere of pure light floated up from its center. It hung in the air for 1 heartbeat, 2 heartbeats, 3. Then it pulsed, sending out a wave of warmth that touched everyone in the room. The light carried a feeling. Not words, not images, just a feeling. Pride, satisfaction, joy. The ancient Keth, dead for 8,000 years, were congratulating the solver. Then the light faded. The box folded back into itself, returning to its original shape. Taiho set it gently on the pedestal and blinked several times, like he was waking up from a dream. He turned around to face the silent room. 50 students and 1 instructor stared at him with expressions of pure shock. The other 4 humans had their mouths hanging open. Jiang had dropped her bag on the floor. Taiho looked at the empty seats in the back of the room, then back at Instructor Velos. "Sorry," he said. "Where should I sit?" Nobody answered. Nobody could answer. The room remained frozen for 10 full seconds. Then chaos exploded. The Mortis students rushed forward, demanding to know how Taiho had done it. Their crystal bodies clicked and chimed with agitation. The Alari wrapped their tendrils around each other in confusion, sharing emotions too complex for words. The Serani student was crying, overwhelmed by the wave of ancient feelings that had washed through the room. Velos pushed through the crowd, his 6 arms creating a path to the human. "Explain," he said. His voice was calm, but his scales had turned dark blue, a sign of deep disturbance. "Explain what you just did." Taiho shifted uncomfortably under the attention. He was not used to people staring at him. On Earth, he had been ordinary. Average grades. Average job. Average life. He had come to the academy hoping to learn something new, not to become the center of attention. "I just solved it," he said. "Was that wrong?" "Wrong?" A Mortis student pushed forward, his crystal face sharp with anger. "You cheated. You must have cheated. Your species has only known about us for 15 years. There is no way you could solve a puzzle that defeated our greatest minds for 8,000 years." "I did not cheat," Taiho said quietly. "I just looked at it. I saw how it worked. So I solved it." The Mortis made a sound like breaking glass. "Impossible. The symbols use a mathematical language that takes decades to learn. The plate mechanisms require understanding of quantum physics. The solution path has over 10 million possible combinations. You cannot simply look at it and know." But Taiho had. Somehow, impossibly, he had. Jiang stepped forward, moving to stand beside her fellow human. She had been watching everything carefully, and she thought she understood what had happened. She had seen Taiho do similar things before, though never on this scale. During their training on Earth, he had solved problems that stumped everyone else. He could never explain how. He just saw things. "Instructor," Jiang said, her voice cutting through the noise. "May I ask Taiho some questions? I think I can help explain." Velos looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. The room went quiet again, everyone waiting to hear what the human woman would say. Ji Young turned to Taiho. "Do not tell me what you did," she said. "Tell me what you saw." Taiho thought for a moment, his forehead wrinkling with concentration. "Patterns," he said finally. "The symbols were not random. They followed rules, like a language. And the plates were worn in certain places where people had touched them before. The wear marks showed me which plates moved together." He paused, struggling to put his thoughts into words. "Once I saw the grammar of the symbols and the history of the touches, the solution was just there, in my head. I did not figure it out. I just saw it." The room was silent again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. Not shock, understanding, and perhaps for some fear. Ji Young turned to face the other students. "Humans see patterns," she said. "It is how we survived on our world. We see faces in clouds. We see threats in shadows. We see solutions in puzzles." She paused. "Sometimes before we even know we are looking." Velos stared at the young human male, who still looked confused about all the attention. The instructor had taught for 40 years. He had seen prodigies and geniuses from 100 worlds. But he had never seen anything like this. The puzzle box sat quietly on its pedestal, its secrets revealed at last. And Velos realized that the galaxy had just changed forever. The news spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. By the end of the first day, everyone knew about the human who had solved the Keth puzzle box in 90 seconds. By the end of the first week, the story had reached the edges of the galaxy. Taiho wanted to hide. He had never liked attention. Back on Earth, he had lived a quiet life. He worked at a small electronics repair shop. He ate lunch alone. He went home and watched old movies until he fell asleep. He had applied to the academy on a whim, never expecting to be accepted. Now, everywhere he went, people stared at him. Other students whispered when he walked past. Some looked at him with curiosity. Some looked at him with fear. A few looked at him with open hatred. The Mortis students were the worst. They could not accept what had happened. Their species was famous for mathematical thinking. They had spent centuries believing they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. Now, a human had done something their greatest minds could never do. One night, Taiho was walking back to his room when 3 Mortis students blocked his path. Their crystal bodies reflected the corridor lights, making them look sharp and dangerous. "Human," the largest one said. His name was Crix. "We need to talk." Taiho stopped and waited. He did not run. He was not brave, exactly. He just did not see the point in running from people who could easily catch him. "You cheated," Crix said. "We have been studying your species. You are not capable of what you did. Your brains are small and primitive. Your technology is basic. There must be some trick." "There is no trick," Taiho said. "I just saw the solution. Impossible." Crix stepped closer. His crystal body hummed with an angry frequency. "Confess now, and we will not hurt you. We will simply have you removed from the academy. But if you continue to lie..." Taiho looked at the 3 Mortis blocking his path. He thought about his options. He could fight, but he would lose. He could run, but they would catch him. He could call for help, but his communicator was in his bag. Then he noticed something. The way the light reflected off Crix's body was uneven. There was a crack, a small one, running along his left shoulder. It was almost invisible, but Taiho's eyes caught it immediately. "Your shoulder is damaged," Taiho said. Crix froze. "What? There is a crack in your crystal. It runs from your shoulder down to your 3rd rib. It is old. Maybe from when you were young." Taiho tilted his head. "You hide it well. You must stand in specific ways to keep the light from revealing it. But right now, you are angry. and you forgot to adjust your position. The other two Mortith looked at Crix with surprise. Among their species, physical damage was considered shameful. Crix had kept his secret for years. How did you see that? Crix demanded. His voice had changed. The anger was still there, but now it was mixed with fear. We stand 3 meters away, and the crack is nearly microscopic. Taiho shrugged. I just saw it. Like I saw the puzzle. Crix stared at him for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. The other two Mortith followed, leaving Taiho alone in the corridor. Taiho let out a long breath and continued walking to his room. He did not feel victorious. He just felt tired. The next morning, Instructor Velos called him to his office. The room was filled with artifacts from the instructor's 40 years of teaching. Strange devices, ancient books, and small sculptures lined the walls. Velos sat on a large platform designed for his species, his 6 arms folded in a complicated pattern. Sit, Velos said, gesturing to a human-sized chair that had been brought in specially. Taiho said. He waited for the instructor to speak, but Velos just studied him in silence for nearly a minute. I have been thinking, Velos finally said. About what you did. About what it means. I have been trying not to think about it, Taiho admitted. I understand. But we must think about it. The galaxy must think about it. Velos leaned forward, his silver scales catching the light. Do you know why the Keth puzzle box is so important? Taiho shook his head. The Keth were the greatest engineers in galactic history, Velos explained. They built security systems, encryption codes, and logical frameworks that we still use today. When they died out, we kept their technology because nothing else was as good. Every bank, every government, every military in the galaxy relies on Keth designs. Taiho was starting to understand, but he did not like where this was going. If humans can solve Keth puzzles through pure intuition, Velos continued, then humans can potentially break any security system in the galaxy. Do you understand what that means? It means people are going to be afraid of us, Taiho said. Yes, and when people are afraid, they do dangerous things. Velos's scales shifted to a darker shade. I have already received messages from several governments. Some want to study you. Some want to recruit you. And some... He paused. Some want you removed from the academy, permanently. Taiho felt cold. Removed? There are those who believe humans are a threat that should be eliminated before you become too powerful. Velos held up one of his 6 hands. I do not share this view, but I want you to understand your situation. You are not just a student anymore. You are a symbol, and symbols can be dangerous. For a while, neither of them spoke. Taiho stared at his hands, thinking about everything that had happened since he picked up that puzzle box. He had just wanted to learn. He had just wanted to be better than he was on Earth. He never wanted to become a symbol of anything. What should I do? He asked. Velos considered the question. Show them that humans are not a threat. Show them that your abilities can help, not harm. Build connections with other species. Let them see that you are not so different from them. But I am different, Taiho said. That is the whole problem. Different does not mean dangerous, Velos replied. Different can mean valuable. It depends on how you use your difference. He stood up, his massive form towering over Taiho. I have watched students from 100 worlds pass through this academy. Every species has unique abilities. The Ilari can sense things others cannot. The Serani can feel emotions across vast distances. The Mortith can calculate faster than any computer. He looked down at Taiho with something that might have been respect. Humans see patterns. It is your gift. The question is not whether you have power. The question is what you will do with it. Taiho thought about this for a long time. Then he stood up and looked at his instructor. I want to help, he said. I want to show them that we are not enemies. Velos nodded slowly. Then we have work to do. Starting tomorrow, I am changing the curriculum. I will not try to teach humans to think like other species. Instead, I will teach other species to understand how humans think. You will help me. It was not a question, but Taiho answered anyway. Yes, instructor. I will help. As he left Velas's office, Taiho felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. He was just an ordinary person from an ordinary planet. He had no special training, no great ambition, no desire for power. But somehow, he had become important. And now he had to figure out how to use that importance without destroying everything. The academy corridor was empty as he walked back to his room. But he knew he was being watched. By friends, by enemies, by curious minds trying to understand the strange human, who saw patterns in everything. Taiho just hoped he was ready for what came next. 3 months passed. The academy settled into a new rhythm, and Taiho slowly became less of a mystery and more of a fixture. Students still stared at him sometimes, but now they also talked to him. They asked him questions. They invited him to study sessions. Instructor Velos had kept his promise. The curriculum had changed. Now, instead of just lecturing, Velos encouraged students from different species to work together. He paired Ilari with Mordith, Serani with humans. He created puzzles that required multiple types of thinking to solve. At first, the students resisted. They were used to competing against each other, not cooperating. But slowly, they began to see the value in combining their abilities. An Ilari could sense energy patterns that a human could not see. A Mordith could calculate paths that a Serani could not imagine. And humans could find connections that nobody else noticed. Taiho worked hardest of all. He felt responsible for the change in the academy. He knew that some students blamed him for making their education harder. He wanted to prove that working together was worth the effort. One evening, he was in the library studying with Velith, the Serani student from his class. She was small for her species, with skin that glowed soft blue when she was calm. Her people could feel emotions from great distances, but they struggled with logical thinking. Velith had failed 2 exams already, and she was afraid of being sent home. I do not understand, she said, her glow flickering to yellow with frustration. This problem asks me to calculate the trajectory of a ship, but I cannot feel where the ship wants to go. I can only feel where it has been. Taiho looked at the problem on her screen. It was basic mathematics by academy standards, but Velas' brain simply did not work that way. Her species had evolved to understand feelings, not numbers. Forget the numbers, Taiho said. Tell me about the ship. Velith looked confused. Tell you what. Pretend the ship is a person. Where has this person been? What did they feel when they were there? And based on those feelings, where do they want to go next? It was a strange approach, but Velith tried it. She closed her eyes and imagined the ship as a living thing. It had traveled through a gravity well, which would have felt like pressure, like being squeezed. It had passed close to a star, which would have felt like warmth, like comfort. And now it was heading toward open space, which would feel like freedom, like release. It wants to go faster, she said suddenly. The ship wants to escape the gravity and reach the freedom of open space. So it will accelerate along this path. She pointed to a line on the screen. Taiho checked her answer against the correct solution. She was right. Velith's glow turned bright blue with joy. I did it. I actually did it. You did it, Taiho agreed. You just needed to think about it in a way that made sense to you. From that night on, Velith and Taiho became study partners. She helped him understand the emotional currents that ran through the academy, warning him when certain students were angry or suspicious. He helped her translate logical problems into emotional terms that she could Understand. Other pairs formed across the academy. Jiang, the other human student, began working with a Mordith named Suler. At first, Suler had been one of the students who hated humans the most. He had been friends with Crix, the one who had confronted Taiho in the corridor. But Jiang was patient and kind, and slowly she won Suler over. "You do not think like us," Suler admitted one day. "But you do not think worse than us. Just differently. I never considered that different could be valuable." Jiang smiled. "On Earth, we have a saying. Many hands make light work, but many minds make great discoveries." The academy was changing. Students who had never spoken to each other were now eating meals together. Species that had been rivals for centuries were finding common ground. And at the center of it all were the 5 humans, who had brought something new to the galaxy. But not everyone was happy about the changes. One night, Instructor Velos called Taiho to his office again. The old instructor looked tired, his silver scales dull with worry. He did not speak immediately. Instead, he activated a holographic screen and showed Taiho a series of messages. "These arrived today," Velos said. "From the Galactic Council." Taiho read the messages. They were official communications, written in the formal language of interstellar diplomacy. But the meaning was clear. Several powerful governments were demanding that humans be expelled from the academy. They claimed that humans were too dangerous, that their pattern recognition abilities could be used to break security systems and steal secrets. They wanted all humans sent back to Earth immediately. "This is because of me," Taiho said quietly. "It is because of fear," Velos replied. "You showed them something they did not expect. When beings are surprised, they often become afraid. And when they are afraid, they want to destroy the thing that frightened them. What will happen?" Velos was silent for a moment. Then he said, "The Academy has some independence from the Council. I can delay their decision, but not forever. We have perhaps 1 month before they force a vote." "1 month," Taiho repeated. "What can we do in 1 month?" "Show them something unexpected," Velos said. "Show them that humans can contribute to the galaxy, not threaten it. Change their fear into hope." Taiho thought about this. It seemed impossible. How could 5 humans change the minds of governments that had existed for thousands of years? How could they convince ancient civilizations that humans were allies, not enemies? Then he remembered something Velos had told him on the first day. The Keth puzzle box was not the only Keth artifact. There were others, hidden across the galaxy, waiting to be unlocked. "The Keth vaults," Taiho said. "You mentioned them before. Places filled with ancient knowledge that no one has been able to open." Velos nodded slowly. "There is one here at the Academy. It has been sealed for 6,000 years. Our best scientists have tried everything, but they cannot find the key. If we could open it," Taiho said, "if we could show that humans and other species can work together to unlock ancient secrets, maybe that would change their minds. Maybe that would show them we are not a threat." Velos studied him for a long moment. His silver scales slowly brightened as something like hope flickered in his eyes. "It is a risk," the instructor said. "If you try and fail, they will say humans are not as special as they claimed. They will use your failure as proof that you should be expelled. And if we succeed? If you succeed, you will give the galaxy something it has not had for 8,000 years. You will give them new knowledge, new technology, new possibilities." Velos stood up, his 6 arms spreading wide. "You will give them a reason to believe in the future." Taiho felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Success could save his people. Failure could doom them. And he had only 1 month to prepare. But when he looked inside himself, he found no doubt. Only determination. "I will need help," he said. "Not just from humans. From everyone. All the students, all the species. This cannot be something humans do alone. It has to be something we do together. Velos nodded with approval. Then gather your team, young human. The future of your species depends on what happens next. Taiho left the office with his mind racing. He had a vault to open, a galaxy to convince, and a month to do it. It seemed impossible. But then again, so had the puzzle box, and he had solved that in 90 seconds. The Keth Vault was buried deep beneath the academy, in a section of the station that most students had never visited. It was a massive door made of the same shifting metal as the puzzle box, covered in symbols that moved and changed like living things. For 6,000 years, scientists and scholars had tried to open it. For 6,000 years, they had failed. Now, a group of students stood before it, ready to try again. Taiho had spent 2 weeks building his team. He had not chosen the smartest students or the most talented. Instead, he had chosen the ones who worked well with others. He had chosen the ones who were willing to listen and learn. There were 15 of them in total. 5 humans, 3 Alari, 2 Mortith, 2 Serani, and 3 members of other species. They had trained together, studied together, and argued together. They had learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. They had become, despite their differences, a team. Instructor Velos stood to the side, watching. Representatives from the Galactic Council watched through cameras hidden in the walls. The whole galaxy was waiting to see what would happen. Remember the plan, Taiho said to his team. We are not trying to solve this puzzle alone. We are trying to solve it together. Every species has something to contribute. Trust each other. Jiang stepped forward first. She placed her hands on the vault door and closed her eyes. I see patterns in the symbols, she said. But they are incomplete. They need something else. One of the Ilari, a male named Vorn, extended his sensory tendrils toward the door. I can feel energy flowing through the metal, he said. It moves in waves like water, but the waves are disrupted. Something is blocking them. A Mortis student named Suler studied the door with his crystalline eyes. The mathematics are unlike anything I have seen, he said. But there is a structure, a framework. If I can understand the framework, I can predict where the symbols will move next. Velith, the Serani, closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. I can feel something behind the door, she said. An emotion. It is not anger or fear. It is waiting. The door is waiting for something. Taiho listened to all of them, letting his mind combine their observations into a single picture. Patterns in the symbols. Energy waves in the metal. Mathematical structures. Emotional resonance. 4 different types of information, seen through 4 different types of minds. And suddenly, he understood. The door is not locked, he said. It is asleep. Everyone turned to look at him. The Keth did not want to keep people out, Taiho continued. They wanted to find the right people to let in. The door is not a barrier. It is a test. It is testing whether we can work together. He walked to the center of the group. Vorn, you said the energy waves are disrupted. Can you show us where? The Ilari pointed to several spots on the door where his tendrils had detected irregularities. Suler, look at those spots. Do they correspond to any mathematical pattern? The Mortith studied the locations, his crystal body humming with concentration. Yes, he said slowly. They form a sequence. If I extend the sequence, the next point should be here. He pointed to a specific symbol on the door. Velith, what do you feel from that spot? The Serani focused her mind on the location. Stronger waiting, she said. More eager. Like something that wants to be touched. Taiho turned to Jiang. What pattern do you see in the symbols around that spot? Jiang studied the area carefully. They form a shape, she said. Like a hand. A hand reaching out. Taiho nodded. The door wants to be touched. Not by one person, but by many. It wants to feel different minds working together. He looked at his team. Everyone, place your hands on the door. Not on the same spot. Spread out. Cover as much surface as you can. The students hesitated. This was not how puzzles were supposed to be solved. You did not just touch things and hope for the best. But they trusted Taiho. They trusted each other. 15 pairs of hands touched the ancient door. 15 minds focused on a single goal. And 15 different types of awareness reached out, combining into something greater than any of them alone. The door began to glow. Light spread from beneath their hands, racing across the metal surface like fire across dry wood. The symbols stopped moving and locked into place, forming patterns that had not been seen for 6,000 years. The energy waves that Vorn had felt began to flow smoothly, connecting every hand, every mind, every heart into a single circuit. And then, with a sound like a deep breath after a long sleep, the door opened. Behind it was a chamber filled with wonders. Devices that pulsed with soft light. Books written in languages that had been dead for millennia. Crystals that contained memories of a civilization that had once ruled the galaxy. But Taiho was not looking at the treasures. He was looking at his team. They were smiling. All of them, even the Mortith, who rarely showed emotion. They had done something that no one in 6,000 years had accomplished. Not because they were the smartest or the strongest or the most talented, but because they had worked together. Instructor Velos stepped forward, his silver scales bright with wonder. He looked at the open vault, then at the students who had opened it, then back at the vault again. "I have taught for 40 years, he said softly. "I have seen many miracles, but I have never seen anything like this." He turned to the cameras that were broadcasting to the Galactic Council. "You wanted proof that humans are not a threat," he said. "Here is your proof." They did not open this vault alone. They showed others how to work together. They taught us something we had forgotten. The chamber was silent as his words echoed through the galaxy. "Humans see patterns," Velos continued, "but they do not keep those patterns to themselves. They share them. They teach them. They connect minds that have never been connected before." He gestured to the group of students, human and alien alike, standing together before the ancient vault. "This is not a threat. This is a gift, and we would be fools to throw it away." The response from the Galactic Council came 3 days later. The vote had been close, but the humans would be allowed to stay. Not just at the Academy, but in the Compact. They would be partners, not subjects. Allies, not enemies. On the last day of the semester, Taiho stood at the window of the Academy, looking out at the stars. So much had changed since he had arrived. He had come here as an ordinary person from an ordinary planet, hoping to learn something new. Now he was something else. A symbol. A bridge between worlds. Ji Young came to stand beside him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Home," Taiho said. "Earth. I am thinking about all the ordinary people there who have no idea what happened here. Who have no idea that they are part of something bigger now. They will learn," Ji Young said. "We will teach them. That is what we do." Taiho smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "I guess it is," he said. Behind them, the vault stood open, its treasures being cataloged by teams of scientists from a dozen worlds. Ahead of them, the galaxy spread out in all its wonder and mystery, waiting to be explored by minds that had learned to work together. And somewhere in the Academy archives, Instructor Velos recorded a simple notation about what had happened. The humans did not solve the puzzle. They taught us how to solve it together. Perhaps that is their greatest gift. The new era had begun.